My friend who was so original made the 4 millionth joke to me that people have made where they're like, oh, hey, well, if your shit gets like super you can always just do a why I left the left thing and become a Christian and join the right. And then this topic comes up of like, why is it that the right can, take people back or not hold people to this like high standard of behavior, whatever, and the left does it. And then I realized, I don't think I've ever had this revelation before. This never clicked me on stream before, but I realized why. And the answer is really obvious. The answer is because this guy at my Jubilee debate, he runs a debate league, Incubate Debate for like high schoolers. And so he invited me on Saturday to sit and basically I had 4 prompts and I would debate anybody that wanted to come up and debate. So he hosts like a debate league that kids from different high schools can participate in. And then the winner gets a $10,000 scholarship, which is cute. Although it was like winner take all, which seemed really brutal for the prize pool structure. But the first day I was there, I debated people. I have all the recordings to that. I think I'll be able to upload that, hopefully. And then I have, and so the second day, I was there to judge. I stayed there, I was one of 12 judges, and then I judged all the debaters, which I thought was a lot of fun. And then afterwards, I got to talk to them all for like an hour about like debate stuff, which I thought was cute because it's like you have a bunch of people that are like super motivated and interested in debate and like going back and forth on how to debate and debate strategy. I thought was really interesting. So I write down stuff to talk about. Hold on, what do I have? I do a lot of thinking when I drive, and I had a friend with me back and forth, so I got to talk a lot. Dude, right-wingers are, this James Fishback guy is like very much like a all-in Trump supporter. But this event and the league that he hosts and everything, it was so wholesome. It was so cute and nice. And all these kids went up, and these guys are like 14 to 18. All of them did a stellar job. They had their arguments prepared. They had to do like live rebuttals. They had to do live cross-examinations. These guys are like, these are miniature people. They're like 15, 14, 16 years old on stage doing this, and they're doing it live and they're being judged. And it's, it was a really cool event. And it was really impressive, especially, I don't want to say given the age, like, oh, they're kids. Like, it was just impressive, period. But it's also really impressive. I just hate that there must be left-wing people that do this to me, and I'm just not seeing it or something. But these right-wing people are so good at like organizing stuff and doing stuff in the real world. Like this guy has this whole ass debate league with all these high schoolers from different schools around the state and the country, I think. And it's just and it's not even like an overtly political event, although, they are kind of getting some political input, right? Because he's the leader. I'm not trying to say he's doing this insidiously, but just like by nature by virtue of being around, a bunch of conservatives or whatever, you're probably going to pick up some other stuff like, yeah. It's so annoying how good right-wing people are at like organizing stuff. And I feel like, I feel like left-wing people don't organize as much, but I have a thing for this. What was the next thing? Okay. I've spoken about 2 different things recently, and for some reason I hadn't connected these ideas in my mind much, okay? So one thing that I've spoken about is that the right in the United States of America, okay, there is this thing called politics. Okay, so one thing that I've said is the right is very much, politics. The right is very much concerned with politics. So politics is like, in my mind, politics is the acquisition of political power. If you are practicing politics in a democracy, you're trying to get people to vote for your guy, right? You want people to vote for your guy so that you can hold elected office, so that you can enforce whatever policies, you think are right or good or the best for the country, right? And I said that the feeling that I have in the online communities is the left kind of practices something different than politics, where the goal isn't to get people to vote for somebody. They're doing something different. It looks like politics, and they say it's politics, but it's not politics. It's something different. If you want to be really mean about it, then some people on the right, maybe even Richard Hanania said this. That one guy, I think, who did like the coddling of the American mind might talk about this. But the left is practicing kind of like a social signaling, or it's more like a social, like a group thing, where you signal to people that you're part of like this in-group, and you do it with political issues, but that's all you're concerned about, is kind of like protecting your in-group. And one thing that I noticed because my friend who is so original made the 4 millionth joke to me that people have made, where they're like, oh, hey, well, if your shit gets like super you can always just do a why I left the left thing and become a Christian and join the right. And then I'm kind of talking about this back and forth. And then this topic comes up of like, why? Like, why? Why are the right so forgiving of everything? Like, why is it that the right can, take people back or not hold people to this like high standard of behavior, whatever, and the left does it? And then I realized, I don't think I've ever had this revelation before. This never clicked to me on stream before. But I realized why, and the answer is really obvious. The answer is because the right is not interested in purity testing. I think I was close before to understand this when I said, well, they do purity tests, but they purity test around voting for the candidate. The reason why the right doesn't purity test is because the goal of the right is to practice politics. All the right wants to do, fundamentally, is win elections. The left does not want to win elections, or at least the far left or the left online people. Their goal is not to win elections. Their goal is something different. I don't know what it is, but their goal is something different. And I realize now, I think that is the answer to when you're wondering, like, why is the right so accepting of people who are coming from the left? You don't see people doing like, why I left the right and why I joined the left, because the left isn't even accepting of those people. Once a Nazi, always a Nazi, or once if you supported this guy ever, or you said this 15 years ago, we're never taking it. And it's like, well, why? And I think I understand now. It's because in their mind, the end goal is some sort of, I don't want to use the word purity because it's overused, but it's some sort of like social group that has to have like a set of beliefs in order for you to belong to it, to feel good about being in that group. And then you reinforce that. And you're like practicing some kind of like basically like a social club, which isn't necessarily bad. Like you can have clubs and you can have groups and you can have popular groups and in-group, out-group preference and all that. That's fine. But when you call it politics, I think that's really bad because they're not doing politics. And so something that I thought was interesting is something I used to complain about a lot is we're playing by two different sets of rules, and that's untenable. We can't have it so that the right is, in the, I don't even want to say in the dirt, in the mud. They're playing a totally different game than what the left plays when it comes to politics. And I'm talking mainstream left people now, like Democrats or whatever, in terms of being willing to break rules. But then I notice online, there's also, in terms of the alternative media spaces, they're also playing a different game. I think the right plays a morally abhorrent and disgusting game when it comes to how they exercise power. I think they do it in an authoritarian manner, and I think there's no place for it in the United States of America. But when it comes to how they exercise their social power, I think that the right actually exercises social power more effectively than the left does, because they exercise it for political ends and social whatever ends, or not like, I'm trying to use a bunch of negative words, but not for like popularity groups and not for just like empty virtue signaling that's not backed up by electoral consequences. Because I keep going back to thinking, I'm like, imagine if you're on the right and you really think that like the 2020 election was rigged. How are you still going out and voting in 2024? Like these motherfuckers, they think that the whole world is against them, but they still show up at the polls and they still actually vote. What the fuck? So yeah, that all that to further my idea that I think that we do have to start being, and I already have been, I guess, and I'll continue to be, we need to be really brutal on cutting people out of the left that are not politically oriented in the political sphere. So like if people want to be like activists or like social commentators or whatever online, like people like Hassan, I guess, then they can do that. That's fine. But we shouldn't confuse those people as being members of or representatives of the Democratic Party. And we shouldn't confuse those people as our allies. They're not. And we shouldn't treat those people like they're politically active. They're not. They're doing something fundamentally different. And I'm not saying that thing is bad. There's room in a society for everybody. Well, not everybody, but there's room for like a whole bunch of different types of behavior of activists, of social, movements and groups that aren't necessarily maybe like looking at political ends. Like that's fine. That can exist. But we can't mix that up with like a political mission. How do you do that? I don't actually know. The reality is I'm looking for new Factorio mods so I can retire and say fuck all this shit. Because the reality is, and it's depressing, and I don't, and it's also hard because like I have to obviously, I'm being very, it sounds conceited, self-conceited or whatever when I say this, but like you need more people like me who are willing to stand tall on liberal beliefs but immediately disavow lunatics to the left. And I don't know why, but it just seems like nobody is able to do that. Gavin Newsom kind of did with some of the trans stuff, But even he's like kind of a pussy about it. And when he started to get a ton of pushback, it feels like he was like waffling on it a little bit. But you have to have, oh, like Ezra Klein is a good example. That's a guy. You have to have somebody who's willing to come out and say, I disagree with Trump on almost everything, but this like socialist shit is fucking cringe, and we need to have real conversations about real policies that are going to make this country a better place. And nobody seems to be willing to do that. I don't know why nobody in the center left is willing to fight to the left ever. It's just so fucking annoying. It's so fucking annoying. But what is their political goal? On the far left, like the online agitator type people, they don't have a political goal because they're not practicing politics. They're doing something different. And I think that's why, like for instance, like look at all the people, the Antifa protesters and the Gaza protesters or whatever for the war. Those people were only protesting basically Democrats and Democratic events and everything. And why? And then shitting on Democrats. But like why? Because you know they're not conservatives. But really, in my mind, it's so funny because people will say like, the leftists are doing what I want us to do. That's the funny thing. When I say leftists, I mean socialist communists. I'll say something like, we need to excise these people from our camp. And then sometimes people will say, we can't afford to do that. We can't lose anybody. Like we need everybody we can get. But then when you look at what they're doing, they're trying to excise us. Like I think one of the big reasons why leftists, why socialists and ultra progressives, why they protest like Democrats almost exclusively is because people know they're not conservatives, but they want you to know that they're definitely not Democrats. They sure as fuck are not the evil liberals, the Democrats. There's something way different. And that separation, the differentiation is incredibly important to them. And I think that's what drives a lot of the protests and stuff, which again, isn't necessarily bad. It's just a different type of thing. It's not the politics that I think we should be practicing, but because it's not politics, they're doing something different, I think. Yeah. What do you think of even non-political people being absorbed into the right, like XQC, who now call CNN libtard media? Well, again, I think that's just because you literally, besides me, actually, I shouldn't say me. The Bulwark people are good. Scott Galloway is good, and Kara Swisher, Ezra Klein, obviously. I think that these people do a good job, and they're getting more popular, which is good. We need more people like that, I think. Wait, did I watch this on stream or did I watch this personally? Did you guys see the argument for why the best cabinet member is RFK? I will take credit for these people being brave enough to do this, okay? Because I attacked the firefighter. Maybe, maybe not. But like, we need more of this.
You go first. We'll go back. We'll do snake draft. The best cabinet secretary is actually RFK. JBL. You be quiet and listen.
I'm the best because you can't hear me. Is it because of Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Because these people need to get their consequences. You want to stop vaccinating your kids? You want to start drinking raw milk? I'm sitting back with my MMR and all my old man shingles vaccine. Have at it, Cletus.
Okay, I clearly took this exercise far too literally. It didn't occur to me to be like, the one who's gonna kill your children's my favorite, because that's what people deserve.
We just need more people who are brave, okay? We need more brave people, all right? Somebody said the good faith argument is that progressives know they have no chance of influencing conservatives, but have a chance to influence libs and Dems since they're closer politically. No, that's not a good faith argument, because that's not a real argument. That's a bad faith argument, because you're making up excuses for a side that doesn't need them. That's a bad faith argument. That's like saying the steel man of Nazi Germany was that Jewish people actually all were secretly trying to destroy the country, and Hitler really had a really strong belief in that. And they did a lot of research, and they really figured that out. That's a bullshit ass. Don't do this thing where you steel man, good faith or whatever stuff that's not what they think. That's clearly not what they think. And the reason why is this. Let me tell you this, okay? Here, so there are two statements that I'm going to connect. I haven't connected these before, but I got a lot of connections. My brain connected things, okay? So one thing that I've said before is the left will always find a reason not to vote for a candidate, and the right will always find a reason to vote for a candidate, okay? Do you know who says, you want to know a really popular saying in our side of the internet is, I don't want to support the lesser of two evils? You will never, ever, ever hear a conservative say that if they don't like their candidate. I don't want to support the lesser of two evils, because they are always voting for who they think furthers their interests. So no, the idea that the left only mass protests, the far left only mass protests as Democratic candidates because they want what's best for their movement and then they don't vote, bullshit. That's not true and that's not what they're doing. And when you give that charitable interpretation, you are a Nazi. You're just as bad as them and you should feel bad for doing that. That's not what they do. That's not what they do. It's just not what they do. Like, yeah, blue no matter who is literally, the leftists use this to attack you. Like, that's a pejorative on the left. And the right use it to attack us. But on the right, you better believe, what, red or dead? Like, they're always voting their candidate. I feel like the consequences shit doesn't even matter, though. Look at COVID. It's not like anyone looked at the deaths in America compared to other countries and said, maybe Trump was wrong on lockdown or the Iraq. I agree with you that these are all problems as well. But I'm always trying to find, like, what is, like, the fundamental problem, or what's, like, the, you know, if you fix this thing, other things will start to fall in line. I think this is a big piece of that puzzle, because we're spending so much time, like, warding off attacks from the left and the right and figuring out, like, where are we? And the feeling I have, and maybe I'm wrong, or I'm not watching the right media, or maybe the rest of Democrats don't agree. The feeling I have, though, is that the Democratic Party is still kind of wandering and looking for, like, its identity. It doesn't really know who it is yet, the Democratic Party. And I think the reason why is because the reason why the Democratic Party can't find itself is because they're trying to appeal to multiple groups of people. And one of those large groups of people are people who don't want to practice politics. And I just think that's a huge issue. Like, imagine spending 5 years trying to win the love and support of some guy, and you do everything from, you buy him shit, and you help him out with projects, and you recommend friends and family, and you take him out to dinner and bowling, you do all these things. And then imagine, like, 5 years later, you break into this guy's house, and you're like, bro, I feel like it's literally 50-50 on whether or not you got my back. What the going on? And the guy's like, oh, well, every single morning I flip a coin, and if the coin is heads, then I'm nice to you, and if it's tails, then I don't give a fuck about you. Like, when you'd see that, you say, okay, well, what the fuck? Well, fuck you. I don't need this. Why would I even be nice to this? Wait, what the fuck? Right? And I think that that's what the Democrats need to realize for some people. We need to not incorporate into our political movements non-political actors. And people like Hasan and these people, these are not political people. I mean, just look at them. Like, look, where are their passions? What political project has Hasan ever taken part in? Right? Or any of these, like, far lefty types. Jesus Christ, what Emma Vigeland or whatever, when we were at that event where it was me, her, and Vosh, and Emma is sitting up there on some panel we're on, and she's like, oh, well, I'm just an online commentator. Like, I don't even know if anybody would even listen to me anyway, LOL. I'm like, why the fuck? What are you doing up here? Like, that was such a mind moment for me, because I'm like, oh, wait, what are we doing? I thought we were kind of doing politics a little bit. No, isn't that like the whole point of what we are doing? Destiny, the only way to win is to claim and rebrand centrism. So you are not part of progressivism while it's being able to condemn the right. No, but I don't want to, no, fuck centrism. Just be a Democrat, be on the left. Is it possible that people genuinely think they have political chances with their insane far-left candidates? Like the people advocating for the socialist guy for the New York State mayoral race seem to legitimately think they can get him elected, for example. Maybe people might think that, and that's fine. I think that primaries are a good place to fight for your radical candidates. But if your radical candidate doesn't win, well, then you vote for the next one. You vote for the Democrat. That's what you should do. But if their radical candidate loses, I think they just lose interest and they drop out completely. Do you think it's more likely that Dems kick out the far lefties and the country corrects course, or does the left fall into populism like the right did, disregard the Constitution, and we descend into civil war? The problem is the far left would never do civil war either, because they don't care about shit like that. They just want to, like, post on social media and stuff. It sounds like I'm being facetious, but I'm really not. That is truly their goal. It's a social movement and like a social group, and they get clout and they get friends and they get, like, activities, and it's all in the furtherance of that. the far left is populist, sure, and the far right is populist, but the far right is populist and they're concerned with electoralism. And the far left, I mean, explicitly aren't. They literally say they don't believe in electoralism. They literally say like, the elections don't matter, you know? Do you think the rise of Bernie in 2016 brought all these lefties out of the woodwork, thinking they legitimately can win elections with even more extreme left candidates? Maybe. I don't like to confuse that too much, though, with the thing that exists today. Because, like, Bernie, you know, for all of his faults, did come out of nowhere. And he had a respectable, he wasn't going to beat Hillary, but he had a respectable performance against Hillary. And Bernie was a real candidate, even in 2020, even though he never really crossed that, like, 1/3 threshold. He was still a real candidate. But the stuff that exists today online is just, it's way, 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 way different. It's not good. It's not good. Did you see Hassan attacking Palestinian activists who went on H3? This is a new low for this clown. I have not yet. We might watch that today, though. The last thing that I wrote down, I really was just going crazy. This is just like a reminder, don't take the right seriously on anything, and don't ever let them morally police you on anything. Remember, the right is doing politics. Their goal is to attack you no matter what. They have no values. Dude, reading the Elon Musk article and everything, like, I'm just trying to imagine, you know how much these guys came down on fucking Hunter Biden supposedly for smoking crack? Or not supposedly, he was a crackhead. But like they come down on this guy so hard for it. Meanwhile, like, all of the Elon Musk drug shit, they literally are absolutely fucking silent on. They don't have a single thing in the fucking world to say. Also, remember, in case you guys forgot, Hunter Biden was not part of the government. He wasn't an elected official. He had literally nothing to fucking do with any of that. So that's it. I agree with respect to internet people, but empirically, the far left are constantly voting Dem more than like any other demo. They're annoying on Twitter and poison discourse, but they vote for the Dem. Bernie voters voted Hillary more than Hillary voters voted Obama after the 2000 primary. So when I talk about the far left, you remember in our minds, we have to disconnect what's going on online with like real world voters. Most of the people, my guess is 80% of people that voted for Bernie Sanders, I'm pulling this number out of my ass, 50 to 80%, I'll leave myself whatever, are not like the crazy far left people. They're not the crazy far left online. They're probably people that heard Bernie Sanders stuff. Remember, most people are not that politically plugged in. They probably heard Bernie Sanders speak like, oh, free education, that sounds sick, and social health care, yeah, we should have that. And they're like, oh, fuck it, vote for Bernie. They're not like, we need a restructuring of the capitalist framework because the bourgeois has been taking advantage of the proletariat for too long and all of capitalism has to fall, and blah, 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 right? Like, they're not, the average Bernie voter was not like that. Even if it might seem that way because what was online, I don't believe the average Bernie voter was like that. Dude, I can't believe... God, I also got obsessed with this fucking clip. It's just, I'm sorry. I'm only gonna play this for 2 seconds and then we're done. It's just, it's crazy to me that this is just so crazy to me. It's crazy to me because I feel like this is the perfect, this is like the perfect encapsulation of everything that is wrong and evil with this side of the aisle. Not these two. Although these two definitely have their problems. So it's the fact that Tim Pool knows everything that's going on in Ukraine, because remember, we saw his Reddit account. Like, he literally was doing AMAs when he used to be an independent journalist, a real small-time independent journalist on the ground. Like, he knows everything that was going on, and he's got like decent answers to everything. He knows why Yanukovych was ousted. He knows that like this has popular support from the people. Does it seem as if the general population is in support of the protesting, or is more of a group of people going rogue to the disgust of the populace? The media coverage is rather sparse in the USA. What's happening? To me, yes, there were 400 to 500,000 people here in Kyiv on Sunday. Also, even back then, like, he knew more about Ukraine way more than I did. I don't even know what the I was doing 12 years ago. I was probably playing StarCraft. December 10th, 2013, I might have been in Poland. And in this, I don't even know. It definitely seems to be a popular movement. He's even calling it Kyiv here. What do you think? Like, and somebody even asks him this, and he's like, oh, well, you know, I think the Ukrainian people are calling it Kyiv instead of Kiev or whatever because of everything going on. He's even calling it Kyiv. This was before Crimea was invaded in 2013. In 2013. So he knows like everything that's happening. He knows why they want to join the European Union. He knows why the people are protesting. He knows about the corruption. In the beginning, it was about the EU, but it seems now it's more about corruption, less about the EU or Russia. He knows about. He brings up that like Yanukovych, people were getting scared because it seemed like Yanukovych was about to vote in favor of the Russian trade custom union or whatever instead of the European Union, and that people were upset about that. How do you spell this? Oh, it's right here. I'm sorry. Do you think the protests will escalate? If so, what will be the consequences internationally? It's a coin toss. Like most uprisings, more people come after police get violent. If they try to evict by force or attack protesters, more people will come. This is just like a very sober, like on the ground factual analysis of, yeah, that's how things happen. Also, if the rumors are true that Yanukovych will sign or has signed a deal with Russia to join the customs union, people will be angry, right? He knew all of this. Okay? And now, okay, so 13 years ago, he knows the events. Also, keep in mind too, remember, timelines, guys, timelines. This is in 2013. Euromaidan and the ousting of Yanukovych hasn't even happened yet. It hasn't even happened yet. And he understands the conditions on the ground, right? It hasn't happened yet. Now he says it's a coup. It was a CIA coup. All of it was illegal. It was backed by the USA, color revolution, whatever, okay? And now that very same guy who was an on-the-ground journalist, all right, in the middle of a year where he's being paid $5 million by Russia illegally, $5 million illegally by Russia, he's doing content like this?
Their artillery flattening the eastern region of Ukraine, just wiping out some key areas. If Russia uses any kind of actual higher yield nuclear weapon, then it's World War III and they know it. But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war.
Pause it for 1 second.
Now, don't get me wrong. I know.
Like, while getting paid, this is what, have you ever been in a situation where you weren't actually doing anything bad, but it looks so bad, you're like, fuck me, dude, right? You're just like, fuck, I'm fucked. Right? I understand what this looks like. It's not this, but like, there's nothing I can say. Like, even if he was innocent throughout the whole thing, how could you ever explain this, right? Like, you're literally doing verbatim Russian propaganda and lying in part of it, which he did, because he said that the Ukrainian attacks on Nord Stream 2 are what started the invasion, which is obviously he's butchering the timeline there, or the sequence of events, really, right? And that while he's getting paid through a Russian shell company, $5 million. This just, I don't know, bro. Like, I see stuff like this, and then I see like House Republicans talking about the auto pen, and it's like, bro, like, actually eat a whole bag of dicks. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. Give me a fucking break. Seeing like conservatives try to like hand wring or virtue signal or talk about on the left, like, you guys did this or whatever. It's just, yeah, it blows my mind. Jesus Christ. So what happened to him? Joe Rogan Experience appearance with Jack Dorsey seems to be when he started just asking questions. I don't know, bro. Like I said, I just don't have the theory of mind for these people anymore. I don't know what to. I wish I could get them alone in a room and just talk to them. Like, can you tell me what the fuck is going on? What happened? I won't leak. No leaks, okay? I won't, no leakery, just please. I would love to hear the answer. Even if it is like, oh, it was a fuck ton of money. It's like, okay, fine, I get that. Fine. But it's not usually just money. Usually there's some kind of ideological component as well, but Jesus. Destiny, he did seem skeptical of the EU in some of the comments. In these? Where? Because I read almost all of these. I feel like he gives just a pretty balanced take on most of it. I don't think... when you say skeptical of the EU, what do you mean? He talks a lot in here about how the Ukrainians are hoping that if they join the European Union, it'll solve a lot of the corruption issues, but then I think he said maybe it won't. But when you say European Union skeptic like that today, that's so negatively loaded in terms of how people view it. I don't think I remember reading anything super negative in here, but... Why don't people confront Tim on being incompetent vetting where the cash came from? It's always about if he knew or not instead of why he didn't know, because you need somebody very sharp to do it. Tim Pool is just very good at weaseling his way out of things. Like even Sam Cedar wasn't able to do this. He came close on the business stuff, but you need somebody who's very sharp and very aggressive and knows the subject matter. Because Sam Cedar almost got him on the $5 million business thing, but I don't know if he let him or he just didn't want to press him as hard or he just didn't understand the business side of things as much, but